Beats production.
Toxic Tyson Platinum Beat Producer.
Malachi, this guy is so scared that he goes, listen how ridiculous this guy is. He goes to Corey's locker room, because I saw him. Corey's locker room was right next to ours. He goes in there and takes pictures with this guy. And he told me that he was going to knock my son out. That's ridiculous, bro.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Final Bell, hosted by Danger Zone Boxing Talk. Here, as always, with my partner Twine, to have two people I really respect in this industry. First, the hardest working man in boxing, Ray Flores. Man, Ray, how you doing? You want to tell us?
It's great to be with you guys
on social media.
Oh, great to be with you guys.
You want to
SBR Flores, social media and stuff. So very honored to be with you guys.
Awesome. And we also are blessed to have boxing reporter Gayle Falkenthal. How are you? I hope I said your name right. How are you doing tonight? And we're blessed to have you as well.
Close enough. Gayle is it. Thrilled to be here.
Awesome. What you want to tell everybody where they can follow you and find you on social media?
I appreciate that. My regular column, yes, there are still some writers around in this industry. I'm at CommDigiNews, Community Digital News, which is CommDigiNews.com. And my Lomachenko Lopez preview has just been posted this afternoon following today's spicy little weigh-in.
Awesome. Yes, it was quite an interesting weigh-in. Well, speaking of which, we're going to jump. Well, Twine, how you doing today? You want to tell everybody how you are today and say hello to our guests?
Oh, yeah, I'm doing fine, man. Thanks. And it's an honor to have both of you on. Gayle, being based out of San Diego, my hometown. So it's nice to have a fellow Californian on. And Ray, definitely an honor to have you on. I'm used to seeing you with PBC events and, announcing. So it's definitely an honor to have both of you on tonight. So thank you.
Thank you.
San Diego represent. Yep.
And as stated, that we have finally arrived at the moment that many of us have been waiting for a very long time. Tomorrow night, the biggest fight in 2020 is going down. It's Lomachenko Lopez, and I'm glad I have you two here. Ray, what do you think we should expect from this fight tomorrow night? You think it's going to live up to the hype?
I think it will, because you have a guy in Lomachenko who is so cerebral, his demeanor, he's so calculated. And I think he's honestly pissed off for the first time in his career at someone that has been constantly calling him out, someone who believes in himself. And he's like, who's this young guy who, in his opinion, he was kind of looking through him during the press conference on Wednesday with Joe Tessitore. I looked at Teofimo and I saw more of a calm demeanor. I didn't see any nervousness with him. Teofimo believes, look, in order to be the best, you have to beat the best. And that's his mentality. And Lomachenko takes offense to that. I love that whole mentality, which is why I think it is going to be a terrific fight tomorrow night.
I agree. I had mentioned this myself. I think that Teofimo has gotten to him a little bit because I've never really seen Vasili act like this. He's talking about, I want to go out there and punish this guy. And I don't know. I've never seen him act like that, and I wonder if that can be detrimental to the way he approaches the fight or not. Gayle, I know that you had said you had already wrote your preview. Give us a little breakdown of what you think is going to happen.
A lot of the greatest fighters at the top of their game, they've got kind of that Jekyll and Hyde switch that goes on, and outside the ring, they're pretty cool. Lomachenko's a very steely customer most of the time. Mm-hmm. See, he gets it from his father, who's also very much the same way. But when they get in the ring, they have the ability to marshal this mean streak that comes out of sometimes nowhere. Bud Crawford can do it. Deontay Wilder can do it. And Lomachenko can absolutely do it. Let's think back to some of his fights with the likes of Mariaga, Walters, Burgundial. At points, he just simply turned on the mean streak and tortured those men. Champions, all of them, into quitting. Can he do that with Teofimo Lopez? That's one of the big questions we all want to see answered tomorrow.
100% agree. I am taking Teofimo. I've went on record and saying I'm going to take Teofimo in this fight. I just got a feeling it's his time. In the last few fights, watching, I think I've seen some things I think Teofimo can take advantage of, and he has the power to not just put Loma down like Jorge Linares did. He has the power to put him out, and I don't know. I have that feeling, in boxing sometimes. I get a feeling and it ends up happening, but I could be wrong. Real fast, we have some people watching. Clarence McLean from Clarence McLean Promotions dropped in. You can find them through your search engine here on Facebook. He said, hello, everyone. He said he's Team Lopez as well. He agreed. The weigh-in was tense. Then we also have Suleiman Ramadan Harrington. He said he's Team Loma. And we have also a special viewer, Sakura Armstrong. I'm trying to get her comment to pop up. It won't let me. There you go. And she says she's from Boxing Playhouse here on Facebook. She runs a very good podcast. She says hello. She go Tio, and she said, "What's up, Malachi?" All right, Twine. We've discussed this fight not only on the show but between each other. I know you're taking Lomachenko. I think you said unanimous decision. But give us a breakdown of why you think that Loma is going to dominate this fight.
I honestly think a lot of it boils down to the experience. I know Teofimo and his dad think that the amateur experience, as far as the 400 amateur fights, being 32, the injuries recently, they think that will play into this. But I'm honestly thinking the experience is actually going to be in his favor. And, of course, having this full year off, the hill is injuries. His shoulder injuries, his hands. I think it's actually going to be beneficial for him in this fight. I'm one of those that, I guess I'm one of those that follows along and has been seeing a lot of people that agree with me thinking that Lopez has more of a puncher's chance than being able to outbox Lomachenko. So I'm kind of going along that line. I think Lopez really has the put like a Salido type of style and pressure him. I believe he's more athletic than Orlando Salido, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Teofimo Lopez and his dad have said they're going to come out and pressure him. So, we already know what he's coming with. He's not going out there to outbox him. He wants to punish him and put a high pace on him and make Loma move backwards. So I think, with the Salido experience, that was enough for Loma actually to overcome. Being that it's 135, not his natural weight, it actually gives Lopez more of an advantage because he's a bigger 135. But I think just the technique and skill and experience of Lomachenko is going to play the bigger hand here. I actually have a question for both of our guests tonight. Do you think a lot of people are feeding too much into, the body language they saw in today's weigh-in as far as coming from Lomachenko? I've had it's been like a mixed crowd as far as what people think, as far as what they're seeing from both fighters, and a lot of people think Lomachenko looked more nervous than Lopez. So I wanted to get both your opinions on that. Starting with Ray, please.
Well, Twine, I think that people make too much of weigh-ins when it comes to stare downs and body language. It's something I mentioned this on Twitter tonight. It's for the fans. What I pay attention to is, does a fighter look drawn out before he gets on the scale? Did they have issues making weight? Did they make weight with no problem? That's what I pay attention to. When it comes to the face-offs, look, we've seen some of the most intense face-offs in the history of the sport, and the fights end up being duds. We have seen stare downs that have been very lackluster, and we get amazing epic battles that we are still talking about to this day. So I don't take much into the overall body language from the stare down perspective. Watching the weigh-in, though, I saw both men. They seem to have no problem making the weight allotment of 135 pounds. And now it just all depends on, when the lights come on, the skills pay the bills, who's going to be able to get the victory. But when it comes to Lomachenko, feeling a little bit more like, scared or more tense, I don't buy into that at all. At the end of the day, Vasili Lomachenko is Vasili Lomachenko, and Teofimo Lopez is Teofimo Lopez. So unless anything crazy happens between now and tomorrow night, both men are in tip-top shape, ready to go.
Okay, Ray, you're not calling this fight, so you could give us your prediction. Who you think's going to win this fight?
So I've been going back and forth. You know what? I'll give you a prediction if you don't mind. Ladies first. I would like for Gayle to go ahead and kind of go ahead and go when it comes to the weigh-in.
Okay. Well, I'm with you, Ray, as far as the weigh-in is much more to gauge their physical readiness than their mental readiness because it's a show. The day before weigh-ins are for the fans. They're for promotional purposes. Ray, you've stood at a hell of a lot of them,
Yeah.
It's a performance, and you want to see what a guy looks like. If you're really, really looking for a tell, if there is such a thing, and I don't believe there is, but Teofimo was the one to break gaze first if you're playing the weigh-in bingo and drinking game. So there you are. As far as a prediction goes, Lomachenko can't make a mistake. No question about it. If he is there to be hit, there will be a lot to get hit with. But he's been in with a lot of powerful punchers in his career, and they've got to find him to hit him. And he has an uncanny way of being very difficult to find. And he generally starts a bit slow because he's sizing up his opponent, like a lot of fighters do. So at first it may seem that Lopez gets out quickly. I believe Lopez may win a couple of the first few rounds. After that, it's my opinion, Lomachenko takes over, very much in the pattern of all the other fights we've seen against champions we thought were going to have more than a 50-50 chance at beating him. I really go back a lot to the Nicholas Walters fight. Walters had absolutely humiliated Nonito Donaire, and we thought, this is all over. And Lomachenko took that guy apart. A skilled fighter took him apart, humiliated him into quitting. Now, I don't think Lopez will quit. And I don't think for all the money there is, for all the betting there is no way Lopez Sr. throws in the towel, no matter what's going on. I do think it's very possible that Lopez Jr. will make it to the final bell. And if he does, good for him. No shame on him. This is a career-building fight, win or lose for him. But I do think he loses by unanimous decision. And once that happens, I think Lomachenko needs to buy Orlando Solido a few rounds and send a few cases of beer his way. Because it was the perfect preparation. He never, ever made the mistakes again he did in that one loss, being bullied by a bigger guy. I think he'll remember those lessons well tomorrow night.
Okay, I have a follow-up question. I'm not sure if either of you have been able to see any of the build-up to the fight as far as the specials on ESPN, as far as I guess sort of like the All Access they're doing. There are some interesting things that came into play as far as the dynamic between Teofimo and his father, as far as their relationship, and just the overall build-up as far as how the rivalry began. And it seems like a lot of it stemmed from his father. What do you guys think of that dynamic between the father and the son? Do you think that's something that may actually come into play in this fight, as far as like we've seen a lot of father-son duos have their issues between, like Roy Jones Sr., Roy Jones Jr., Shane and Jack Mosley. So do you think those dynamics will have an effect on this fight at all?
I don't think so. I think that Teofimo and his dad are so much in sync. And I know that they tried to mention it a little bit during the press conference on Wednesday about how Teofimo said, he wished that his dad was more like his dad instead of his trainer. Look, I've been around the Porters, I've been around the Garcias, I've been around the Guerreros, I've been around enough father-son combinations, even though there might be a little dissension or whatever the case may be, when they're preparing for a prize fight, at the end of the day, these guys are prize fighters. It's not father and son, it is prize fighting. And that's what these guys are focused on. Look, I saw Teofimo Lopez during Wilder Fury #2 week back about I don't know how many months ago it was, about 8 months ago. And Teofimo had this very relaxed but excited demeanor about him, knowing that the Lomachenko fight was looming. It was supposed to be a Memorial Day weekend, but obviously got pushed to tomorrow night. And what I gathered from Teofimo is that he realizes he has everything in front of him. And from a prediction standpoint, I've been going back and forth. Typically, you look at Canelo Alvarez, Floyd Mayweather, and I was at the fight, very fortunate to do the undercards there, and Mayweather gave him a boxing lesson. And then you look at the fight with Fernando Vargas and Oscar De La Hoya. Again, the experience played a factor. So I was going back and forth, but to me, I think that Teofimo, I'm going to go against you, Gayle. I think that the athleticism of Teofimo, along with his explosive punching power, is going to be significant. The one thing you cannot prepare for when it comes to prize fighting is dealing with someone's athleticism. I think that Teofimo doesn't get enough credit for how good of a boxer he is, and I think he's a good enough boxer to be able to hold his own to a degree, but it's the athleticism and the punching power which are the X factors, in my opinion. I think Teofimo can catch him in the 6th or the 7th round, which I think is going to be his wheelhouse, because if the fight goes longer, you would think that it favors Lomachenko. If it goes longer for Lomachenko and you start to get into 9 or 10, you think that Lomachenko is likely going to be up 7-3, 6-4, even 8-2. That would mean that Teofimo is going to have to be more aggressive and start to get careless. He needs that sweet spot of 6 or 7 to where it's a close fight, and then catch Lomachenko with something and then finish him off. He cannot allow Lomachenko to recover, and he's got to catch him either early in the round or at the midway point of the round to be able to go and close the show in definitive fashion. So I think 6 or 7 is a sweet spot for Teofimo Lopez, and I'm going with youth this time instead of the experience compared to other prize fights that we've seen in the past.
And that's what makes this such a great fight. It's truly 50-50. You two guys are divided. Your two guests are divided. And we just all want to see a great fight with both guys giving their best tomorrow.
And a lot of people are leading with me and Ray. I was on the great Robert Garcia's live, and he was on live, and I was asking him questions, and I was like, well, who you got in the Teofimo Lopez fight? And he was like, I'm taking Teofimo. And I was like, so how do you deal with, I asked him, I was like, well, how do you deal with Loma's movement? And he says, pressure. He's going to have to pressure him. But the difference is you're dealing right here with a really athletic guy who can pressure you. And he was like, his athleticism can make Loma pay when Loma tries to get to that side movement. He because he's athletic enough to counter it. So I was like, oh, I was already leaning towards Teofimo. So I got that strengthened it to hear the great Robert Garcia say, and Ray said it. But you're right. This is an amazing fight. Everybody's split. You know what I mean? And if you say one guy's going to win, some camps are like, you don't know anything about boxing. But, hey, opinions vary. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead.
Let me ask one more question about this fight. Depending on the winner, whether it's Loma or Teo, what does this do for their career as far as catapulting them, or what does it do for their legacy? I mean, what's next for them? What do you think it does? As far as Teo, does this put him in the top 10, top 5 pound for pound? And if for Loma, he becomes undisputed, what does this do for him? He's already considered a top pound for pound fighter.
Yeah.
Lomachenko's destiny and road to the Hall of Fame is absolutely, completely assured. A loss would certainly be a blow to his career. It probably knocks him off the top of the pound for pound rankings for all of us who have him there, and I do. But it doesn't necessarily tarnish his whole career. And he is fighting a much bigger guy in a weight class that's really not naturally suited to him. I think then he moves back down and starts cleaning out the divisions at I don't know if he goes back to 126, but 130. I think he wouldn't have any problem, and long-term, I don't think it hurts him. The bigger change would be if Teofimo does win. It absolutely catapults him into stardom and a true American young boxing star, part of this new generation that's coming up and taking over. Gervonta Davis, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez. It's exciting to see this next group coming up. Americans, all of them. It's nothing but good for the sport. I don't know that he hits number 1, but he's got a good case for the top 10, no question about it.
Yeah, if Teofimo Lopez is victorious tomorrow night, he becomes the biggest star that Top Rank has, and it's not even close, because that is a signature victory on a massive platform like ESPN. If Lomachenko wins, much to kind of piggyback off of Gayle's point, I think it even furthers the fact that he is a first ballot Hall of Famer with what he's been able to do from the amateurs to becoming a world champion in the infancy of his professional career. So this is a legacy fight for both men. But if Teofimo gets the victory, it's not even close to me as to who the biggest star the Top Rank has. And I don't even really count Tyson Fury because I consider Tyson being a Frank Warren production. It's kind of like they're half on that. But in terms of homegrown guys that Top Rank has been able to produce from the ground up, and along with the fact of the, David McWalter and Tim Van Nieuwhouse, and look, I've known those guys for a long time, and they have been preaching to me about how special they have this young guy in Teofimo Lopez, everything else. David McWalter, I've been in car rides with him, going to show boxes all over the country, and he's constantly checking on Teofimo in terms of what he's doing, how he is, et cetera, et cetera. Teofimo wins this fight, he becomes the biggest star the Top Rank has. Lomachenko wins, first ballot Hall of Famer, hands down.
And Ray, wouldn't you say that he would perhaps be the biggest American boxing star of any promoter?
I don't know that's the case, Gayle, because of the fact that this is the first big fight that Teofimo has had. It's not, I need to see more of a body of work when it comes to the casual boxing fan. So I don't know if he would be the number one just yet, just based on the fact that it's only a small sample size to the general sports public. The next fight that he has, if he's victorious on this next big prize fight, if he beats Vasili Lomachenko, then I would say absolutely. But right now, I think it's still too early.
Okay, I think that if Loma wins, I think Loma's going to stick around at 130, and I think he's going to go after the only other strap that he doesn't have, which is go back and get his WBC regular strap that he vacated for to get the franchise tag. After that, you make a great point. He might drop back down to 126. There's some interesting fights down there, should he, or 130, wherever he would choose to stay. I think if Teofimo wins this fight, which as I stated, I think he will. I think it catapults him, as everyone has stated, into stardom. I think he's a little bit still shy in front of the cameras. They did reveal that he struggles with anxiety. And I think that maybe being in front of all that, but he's gonna have to get used to it if he beats this guy, because he's gonna become a sensation, a star. All right, let's go through a few comments real fast before we move to our next topic and see what people have said. Looks like Jason here says Lopez cannot handle a tactician. He's had one good fight in his last 3 fights. I got it. I don't know. I got to disagree. I think he won them all by knockout. Was that because? He's won them all by knockout. He said. Carl said Loma's is stiff. He moves pretty good. This guy, I guess he was talking to him, said, what you watch. Shakura came on and said, can Loma be perfect 12 rounds, not get caught at all? It's possible, but with every round, Teo can land something dangerous. And she said, fans are assuming that Teo only has power, and that's not the case. I agree. I think he's a very good catch and shoot. I think he's got that down. He does other very subtle, slick things in the ring that a lot of people don't see. And he says, yes, put apples with apples. I don't know what he was saying there. And Shakura said, Ray, that's a sexy voice. I don't know what he just said, but it sounds.
Oh boy, I appreciate it.
And Sullivan came back and said, Shakura's the best young star, and he's the smaller man who's been seen given the bigger guys like Haney, Lopez, Garcia, and Davis. Loma, who's bigger, more experienced, will go to work on the young bull. It's possible. A lot of people are expecting Loma puts on a master class. I don't think I see that. I've been wrong before. So, all right, moving on though. There was some news that dropped earlier this week that a possible rematch a lot of people are looking forward to is most likely going to fall through. Bob Arum even claiming the rematch clause for Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder has expired. I had read that earlier, and I had spoke about it a little bit on Heavy Bag Boxing. I know you called both fights, Ray. Are you going to be disappointed because I'll tell you the truth. I love both fights. I absolutely loved watching both fights, but I don't need to see a 3. I think Tyson won both of them, in my opinion. And I am much more interested in seeing Tyson beat up Anthony Joshua and have all the belts, and then possibly a fight with Deontay after that. But I know I'm sure you're wanting it to happen. What do you think Deontay would have to do to win that third fight?
Listen, the fact that Deontay Wilder was heavyweight champion of the world for 5 years, doesn't matter who you're beating, he beat his mandatories. I've never in my life seen anybody who's the heavyweight champion of the world more disrespected than what I've seen Deontay Wilder disrespected over the past 8 months. It is upsetting to me. I think it's very disrespectful. I would have said the same thing about Tyson Fury. If Tyson Fury would have lost and people were writing him off like he was nothing, like he was a quote unquote, borrowing a term from pro wrestling, a jabroni. Like they're making it seem like Deontay Wilder is a nobody. The guy had such a high knockout percentage, 10 successful title defenses. He beat who the sanctioning body put in front of him. What did you want him to do? And yeah, he had the draw with Tyson Fury the first time, and he lost, and he got things handed to him when it comes to, this second fight in February. Look, so many people have lost the first time in boxing. You can go back to Joe Louis in 1936 when he lost to Max Schmeling, comes back and defeats Max Schmeling and rectifies the loss. Roberto Duran lost to Sugar Ray Leonard, comes back and has a tremendous career. There have been cases. Tommy Morrison got blown out by Ray Mercer. 20 months later, comes back, beats George Foreman to become the heavyweight champion of the world. Deontay Wilder is hellbound on getting his world title back. And I don't know what happens from the business standpoint, but what I do know from what I've read and what I've heard, both ESPN and Fox, both were not for the fight taking place in December or in the middle of December because of college football. So you mean to tell me that Deontay Wilder's team and Tyson Fury's team, they're going to listen to the networks and then coincidentally they're going to say, oh, well, you know what? Guess what? The time for them to make the fight happen has expired and this and that. I'm going to be honest with you guys. The only people that care about, unless you're the hardcores, with Fury and Joshua are those that are in the UK. That's all that cares. The common sports fan couldn't tell you who Anthony Joshua is in the United States, but people know who Deontay Wilder is. The dude was the baddest man on the planet and lost one time. There was a rematch clause for a reason. It is a legally binding agreement. If the networks say we don't want the fight in the middle of December in the middle of a pandemic, and then it has to get tabled to 2021, if Fury wants to take a stay busy fight because he has a very short attention span, then let him do it. Who's to say that Deontay Wilder is not going to get the fight after Tyson Fury gets that tune-up fight? Has anyone heard from Deontay Wilder? Has anyone spoken to Deontay Wilder? No. If it was truly not happening, don't you think we would have all heard from Deontay Wilder? Bottom line is this, guys, and I know I'm going long-winded, but I'm pissed off that people have disrespected Deontay Wilder. The people in the UK support UK fighters. Why is it that here in the United States, American fight fans would rather support a fighter from overseas instead of one of your own homegrown champions? For years we heard, how come there's not a heavyweight champion in the world in the United States? How come there's not a heavyweight champion in the world in the United States? You got one for 5 years and you didn't appreciate him. A guy from the UK comes over and you want to give him and throw roses at him, this and that. This is crazy to me. Like, how do we not support our own fighters? It is ludicrous, guys, and it needs to stop. But listen, Wilder is training and ready to go, and I do believe we get the best Deontay Wilder in that third fight. Whether or not it's enough to beat Tyson Fury, we'll find out.
Awesome. Hey, thank you. That was an amazing take. Gayle, what do you...
Well said.
What do you think? What do you think? Do you think we're going to end up seeing Joshua Fury first, or will we get the rematch that I clearly see Ray wants very badly, and I think a lot of people want? I know Shakara wants it. She's been clamoring for that.
I don't think you see either of those fights next. If, and let's qualify this, Ray is right. We haven't heard from Wilder. We've heard some denials from his manager, Shelley Finkel, but that's it. So, and we've heard things from Bob Arum, expiration on a rematch clause. I'd like to see some proof of that before we take that at face value. I don't think we see their fight next that you just talked about. If this rematch is delayed, and there's a difference between off and delayed. So let's say it's delayed. I don't have a problem with that. Honestly, I think that might play into the best interests of Deontay Wilder long term, to get some wins back, to get that respect back. Well said, Ray. You know, Deontay Wilder has always been disrespected. You know, every time I've talked to him about the issue of respect, personal respect, professional respect, athletic respect, you know, he's never really been given his due that way. And perhaps he needs some more outings to remind people just why they were always so excited to see him. One bad outing does not make a bad fighter. And if this gets delayed, if that allows a full roaring house of fans, I'm all for it. Disappointed, yes, but the pandemic gets a say right now in what goes on. And boxing is a business and needs to make money to survive. If that's what happens, so be it. I don't see Fury taking on Joshua. Maybe he gets another domestic type of fight. Maybe somebody ambitious decides to wave their hand and put themselves in front of him. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I think some of this also, we all know that, and he's been very honest about it, that Tyson Fury has always had some very serious mental health challenges. He's worked with a lot of them, much to his credit. But he also says that he needs to stay busy in the best interest of his mental health. And I think that might be in play here. If so, I dislike it even less. If that's what it takes, and it's a decision that he needs to make, so be it.
Guys, if I can quickly give another point from the business standpoint of boxing, and Gayle, I think you would agree with what I'm about to say, is the fact of, she mentioned about the pandemic. And yes, we're in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. The MGM was jam-packed that entire week during Wilder Fury 2 in mid-February. Do you really think that the MGM is going to want that fight to happen at the Raiders Stadium, where the whole caveat to having a big prize fight, either at T-Mobile or specifically the MGM Grand Garden Arena, is to have the casino floor buzzing from 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning until 2 or 3 in the morning after the fight? If the fight is at the Raiders Stadium, at Allegiant Stadium, is the casino floor going to be busy and buzzing like how it's supposed to do? Probably not. And I know that the minimums, because I like to play a few hands of blackjack and stuff, I know that the minimums are insane on fight night, especially as you get closer to the fight and even after the fight. So from the financial part about it, you bring 200 or 300 of your big whales, your big gamblers that are going to get, you know, carte blanche to the fight and a suite and everything else, and they're dropping whatever they're dropping on the casino floor. Do you really think they're going to be able to bring in those whales and all those fight fans that are hardcore, you know, that like to have a good time, that like to play from the UK, et cetera, and say, go to Allegiant Stadium and then stay at different hotels off the strip, but don't come back here? No. I think from a business standpoint, I think that the MGM, and I have no proof of this whatsoever, but do you really think that the MGM is going to want this fight to be at Allegiant Stadium, to where people can't be buying the merchandise in the gift shops? They aren't having beverages before the fight. They aren't spending $300 or $400 on a hotel room at the minimum. Absolutely not. We are in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. People need to calm down. And I've heard many people say, well, how come we don't get more cross-promotional fights? I think Spence and Crawford would have potentially happened early next year had it not been for the pandemic, because PBC and Top Rank are working so well together.
Well said, Ray. And if you've priced hotel rooms in Las Vegas right now for the average fan during what might have been fight week in December, hotel rooms are going for a song. The city cannot survive. This is one of those events they desperately need to maximize. Las Vegas makes a lot of their money on convention traffic, which is just completely gone. One of the first things that could potentially come back is a fight like this and prize fights like this. So Ray is right on target, in my opinion.
I agree. The Twine, I had read earlier today that Tyson Fury and his team said they're already looking at someone else in December. A lot of people are starting to clamor that him and his team are looking to duck Deontay Wilder. I've seen that on Facebook. What do you think? Do you think that we end up getting the Wilder 3 rematch? Or do you think that Arum and them are telling the truth that, there was some type of limit which expired last Friday?
As both of our guests have mentioned, I definitely think a lot of this is pandemic related.
Mm-hmm.
As far as not having live gate in attendance, this is about that need stat. I mean, just consider what the first 2 bouts have done for the heavyweight division. They definitely magnetized both the division. Once again, it's definitely a stellar. It's getting the views that it needs. They've always said that you can't have boxing without the heavyweight division, and these 2 have put it back into the limelight with both of their pay-per-view events. So, I mean, I definitely think we'll see a part 3. As far as the timing of it, a lot of it is going to be as far as when live attendance is allowed in Vegas again. I think there is an alternative, as we're seeing with the PBC doing right now. They're doing a lot of their events in Texas. So I think that could be an option that comes into the play if they really want to do this early 2021. I think the executives at the cable networks were both right in not wanting to do this in December again. It's a lot of competition between college football and sports at that time. I think that's what their conference final weekend. So, I mean, they're doing a good job in delaying this. I definitely think it's something we're going to see. At the same time, this bodes well for Deontay Wilder. He's been nursing some injuries. A shoulder injury. It wasn't something easy for him to come back from. I definitely agree. I think Shelly Finkel is probably the closest one on point here. We're going to see this fight. I don't necessarily believe there's an expiration. This fight is too good for the boxing business for them to turn it away. Some of the things I've seen as far as about Tyson Fury this week is that they're rolling ahead with their December 5th fight. And, there's been some interesting names thrown out there as far as with Oscar Rivas, Efe Ajagba, Cable. I've even seen Lucas Brown's name tossed around by one of our UK affiliates at Ingram Jones with BWTM online. So, I mean, I have no problem with Tyson Fury taking a stay busy fight, but I think both sides know that this fight, it's inevitable and it's going to happen. And I see it happening even before a possible AJ Fury unification because, they just announced Joshua's fighting Kubrat Pulev on the show. So, I mean, I definitely think we'll see the Deontay Wilder Fury trilogy come to fruition before any of that.
Okay. Real fast to go through some comments. Carl Smith came back and he said, how much weight did Lopez lose for this fight? I'm in a private chat group with their team. So I know he was at 147 like 3 weeks ago. Obviously he made weight today perfectly at whatever he was before 3 weeks ago when they posted that. I can't tell you. But I do know that he did go through that. Michael O'Brien said, this is giving me Spinks versus Tyson vibes, McLean versus Jackson. 50-50 most eyes prior, but it feels like Loma about to get stretched as if we about to witness a murder. Then
I don't see that. Jesus.
Then, I think I lost that. Jason came back and I guess he was responding to me. He said yes, but he also said Lopez knocked out his last 3 fighters. You don't know shit about boxing. It was 2 out of the last 3. I forgot Nakatani was in that last 3 fights. I'll go off the top of my head. Shakura said, I feel Wilder won and Fury wants to run it back. So sick of fans dismissing boxers after 1 loss. Thank you, Ray Clapp. I knew you would like that. She's a very big Wilder supporter on their show. We'll skip through a few of these. We'll get to our last few. Clarence came back. He said he's fighting who sounds like a cab driver. He's talking about Fury. Smith said Wilder has horrible boxing skills. He has lived and died with 1 punch. Him and Mark Breland should have parted ways a long time ago. I have actually seen Wilder improve, along the way. There are, yeah, I can see why people get down on him. You know, some of the windmill memes are a little bit uncalled for. Ray, you've seen him up personal. Real fast, tell us, is there, you know, how much does everybody overrate his fundamental flaws?
A lot. The guy was a bronze medalist in the Olympics, and people talk about prize fighters who become world champions, and they have, you know, they're 80 and whatever the case may be, and they say, oh, he's a really good boxer. And they didn't win anything. They didn't win jack in the Olympics. Deontay Wilder won a bronze medal in the Olympics. Listen, I've talked with JDs and the entire team many, many times. And everything they talk about when it comes to patience, waiting for your moment, et cetera, are all things that he executes inside the ring. He lost to a better man on February 22nd. There's no harm about it. But if we would have thrown dirt on every prize fighter that would have lost one time or had a bad night at the office, guess what, guys? We would have never gotten Arturo Gatti, Mickey Ward. We would have never gotten Barrera Morales. We would have never gotten Oscar De La Hoya with some of his triumphant comebacks. I mean, give me a break. One loss and people are ready to go ahead and bury a guy. This is the most ridiculous and asinine thing I've ever seen in my life. And yeah, I got a bone to pick with Teddy Atlas because he picked him to win. And then after he loses, starts talking about all the flaws that he has. Well, Teddy, you didn't mention all these flaws when prior to the fight. Look, at the end of the day, guys, it's okay to lose. That's okay. Only one guy is Floyd Mayweather, who's 50-0, and he's very well off. It is the Mayweathering of boxing, and I think we need to go back to the old school way of doing things and look at guys like the Emmanuel Augustuses of the world, the Mickey Wards, the Fernando Vargases, who gave us amazing fights even after one loss. Roy Jones lost and still came back, and he wasn't who he was, but he still came back and gave us very good prize fights. Felix Trinidad lost, and what happened to him? He came back and was fine. Mayweather is only one guy, and that's fine that he's 50-0. But Deontay Wilder, make no mistake about it, this is a legacy fight for him. He's either going to come back and steamroll Tyson Fury, or Tyson Fury's star is even going to grow that much more. Either way, fight fans win when that third fight happens.
Preach, Ray. Absolutely. And let me add to that. This is why boxing is becoming in danger of being steamrolled by mixed martial arts, because they don't mess with this. They aren't concerned like we are with single losses. Fighters they learn more than they lose. That a loss did not hurt Canelo Alvarez, folks, not one bit. He learned a tremendous amount from that fight with Mayweather, both inside and outside the ring. It made him the star he is today because of those lessons. As long as lessons are learned, a loss is not a waste. A loss can be a tremendous benefit, especially early in a guy's career, or a girl's for that matter. So we need to get over this. We really do. Keep up the din, Ray. We have to sound the alarm here.
Look, and Gayle, to get to your point, Jorge Masvidal is one of the biggest stars in the UFC and has like 14 losses. But people aren't saying that Masvidal sucks and he's this or that. Nate Diaz lost to Conor McGregor once actually, and he has a ton of losses. But people aren't saying Nate Diaz. They're clamoring for Nate Diaz to come back. People are still clamoring for Conor McGregor to come back. They're waiting. Oh my God, when's Conor going to come back? This and that, whatever the case may be. But Deontay Wilder, your homegrown American heavyweight champion, and Americans are ready to write him off. It is just disgusting to me. But again, hopefully they make that third fight. And listen, I know that Deontay Wilder and his camp, they're paying attention to everything. Mark my words. And this is going to be a laser-focused bronze bomber. And oh boy, I definitely am very curious to see once that bell rings in that third fight.
Awesome. Well, we'll move on to our next topic. Now, Twinehead, you had wanted to have this discussion, so you had said you hit me up in the inbox and said what was it? Andrade had said that Jermall is ducking him.
Yeah, Jermall Charlo. I wanted to get your opinion on that whole fiasco. I mean, there's been, Demetrius Andrade has been saying that both of the Charlo's brothers have ducked him. And, I'm completely against that whole notion because I actually went to Vegas for a fight to where Charlo and Andrade were supposed to actually be fighting each other. And he completely loved, he didn't turn up for the fight, turned it down. And this was like 2 weeks before the week of when this happened. Secondly, he's saying that the bigger Charlo, the 160-pound champion at the moment, is ducking him as well. When there's, actually he has a mandatory to face. So I wanted to get both of your thoughts as far as Demetrius Andrade's career. At this point, he's 32, still doesn't have a recognizable name on his resume at the moment, and yet he's calling all these guys out and saying they're dodging him.
Yeah, I'll let you go first.
I wish people would leave the drama for the telenovelas. I mean, really. Can we just, move on, see what fights get made and what they don't? Demetrius Andrade's a very skilled fighter. I don't think anybody would deny that. He is not a very bankable skilled fighter. So risk versus reward comes into play. There are also promotional issues. There's a lot of factors that go into this. Everyone is very, very quick to use the duck word, and I don't hear a lot of quacking. So I'm not concerned about this at all.
No, Twine, I think that here's the deal when it comes to that. Jermall Charlo was going to fight Demetrius Andrade years ago. The fight was getting ready to be made, and Andrade pulled out because of the whole deal, the whole rope-a-dope that he tried to pull when he tried to get out of his contract with Banner Promotions, go to Rock Nation, and then, oh boy, he got caught holding the bag, and he clearly didn't go to Rock Nation. So his call out of getting ready for Jermall Charlo and that fight being pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered, he has only one person to blame, and he needs to look in the mirror, and that's himself, because he could have fought Jermall Charlo before Jermall Charlo truly became the star that he is. I know that I believe I heard it from Ronnie Shields at some point in an interview or somewhere where Ronnie stated that the Charlos remember that, and they vowed to not give an opportunity to Demetrius Andrade if they were in a position of power. Well, lo and behold, guess who headlined the first pay-per-view, about a month ago, and guess whose star continues to rise? I don't care what people say. When you are a hardcore fight fans, when you are known to the hardcore fight fans and you're starting to generally start to get exposed to the casual sports fan, and you draw over 120,000 buys in the middle of a pandemic at $75 a pop, I consider that a success. The Charlo star continues to rise. Demetrius Andrade, a very good fighter, world-class prize fighter, but is still an unknown quantity. So listen, the Charlos, I know them both very well, and we go back 6 or 7 years. They're not ducking nobody. They wouldn't be ducking Tyson Fury if Tyson Fury was in their weight class. They wouldn't dunk Anthony Joshua. These guys want to get paid, they want to fight, and they want to hurt people. Demetrius Andrade is not being ducked by anybody. I just think that from a Demetrius Andrade standpoint, he has to get a signature victory to whatever degree that might be, and then be willing to go on the opposite side of the street. Because in my opinion, Gayle, I think the Charlos are more marketable and are the A side compared to Andrade.
By far. Boxing is entertainment. Boxing competes with other entertainment vehicles. And if you are not an entertaining fighter who is a draw, the money isn't going to be there. And these guys put too much work and too much on the line not to maximize their paychecks. Who could criticize them for that? It won't be me.
I agree. We were blessed to have one of our guests one time be the great Derek James. And he broke it down very well. He said, these guys aren't ducking each other. He was like, anyone who throws that out, they don't know what it's talking about, because these guys all came up through the amateur ranks. When you show up to amateur tournaments, you don't know who you're going to fight in the amateur tournament. And he was like, so they're not ducking nobody. They never ducked anybody. It's all about, money. Now, the fighters, I can see why they throw out the duck word, because then it gets your name hot. Oh, everybody's ducking this guy in the mind of, people. But it's like Charlo, Jermall Charlo. Do I think he's done enough to fight Canelo? Absolutely. But the problem is he's going to have to fight him on DAZN, and Eddie made that very clear. You can get the Canelo fight, but you're going to have to fight on DAZN. And I'm not sure that Showtime and them will agree to that because he is a megastar on their platform.
Yeah,
And,
but
and a lot,
I don't think Jermall Charlo cares, to be honest with you guys. I mean, I've talked to Jermall. I don't think he cares. You know, he's been asked interviews, you know, what do you think about fighting Canelo, this and that? He goes, look, if I keep winning, I control my own destiny. And that's the bottom line. And before we can even talk about a Canelo fight, Canelo is in a fight in the courtroom right now with Golden Boy and DAZN. So I think that a fight with Canelo needs to be not even talked about because Canelo is dealing with prosecutors and juries and all this litigation. But if Charlo keeps winning, that fight with Canelo will be absolutely evident.
And who's to say Canelo and DAZN are going to be working together at this time next year? We don't know. We don't have no idea. You know, boxing people just love to yap, don't they? I mean,
we got to have something to talk about.
I mean, really, I think we can all put this to rest. I mean, speaking again of the respect issue, Ray, how much more do these guys need to prove to get some respect in this argument?
Listen, Gayle, I was around them during their workouts, and I've seen them for such a long time. And in my opinion, I think that they are misunderstood because people say, oh, well, they're angry, they're this and that. No, they're not. They are just tired of being overlooked and not respected by the media. And also, you know, they get the respect from the hardcore fight fans. But yeah, when the media says, well, how come you're not fighting this person or that person? Well, when you have Sergey Derevyanchenko and Jason Rosario in front of you, why talk about everybody else, et cetera, et cetera? They go out and they handle business against Derevyanchenko and Rosario. And in my opinion, I think Jermall Charlo needs to be in the top 10 pound for pound for what he was able to do as he has 3 belts now. I think that needs to be in the discussion. I understand why they're upset and they have this form of being disgruntled towards the media because they don't get their just due. These guys have been grinding for over 10 years, and finally now they're getting praise from people. It's like, you know, at some point when it comes to prize fighter, too little, too late, because you weren't accepting of what they were doing in the process to get to being a world champion.
And once again, 2 American born and bred fighters from Texas. Come on. You know, if they tell the Fairweather fans to talk to the hand, I'm right behind them. You know, who needs it?
I agree. Real fast, if Errol Spence goes on to beat Danny Garcia, is it just me or is Derek James not hands down the trainer of the year?
100%.
Yep.
Yep. You think he's trainer of the year?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Twice?
If not a lock, he's a finalist. No question about it.
Oh, you know, I'm 100% on board with this one. DJ is my boy.
All right. Well, we're going to have to skip a topic because I told both our guests we'd only be off for an hour tonight. So let's just jump straight over to this Tank Davis and Santa Cruz matchup. And I do believe that, Ray, you said you're going to be at the fight. This is going to be a great card. It's going to be on pay-per-view, of course. I'm real interested because a friend of the show, Cowboy Carl, is fighting for a world title, and we're hoping he's going to pull that out. No disrespect to Barrios at all, you know. But the other fight I like, Regis is making his return. Ray, you've called fights in there before. What do you think it's going to be like at this capacity?
I have no idea, guys. And this is this is new territory. And I miss the fans, right? I miss the fans. I miss seeing you guys at ringside. And, you know, I have so many friends in the media. Gayle, you're one of them. And, you know, privilege to meet you guys as well. And I love going to Media Row and saying hello to everyone and talking shop and chopping it up before the fights. I miss it all. 12,000 people, 12 to 15,000. I think Leonard Ellerby said on our conference call earlier this week. About 12,000 people in a 60,000 seat arena, how they're going to space them out. I know that it's also social distancing. I don't know, but I think that the place is going to be loud. I think they'll be very vocal. And I'm excited for this card. I think this is a very underrated card because I don't think this fight is as easy as what people say for Gervonta Davis against Leo Santa Cruz. Leo Santa Cruz, I don't think gets enough credit for his pure boxing ability, and he's aggressive, and he's going to throw punches in bunches. How is Gervonta Davis going to fight fighting off his back foot. On the contrary, when you're aggressive, you throw a lot of punches, you leave yourself exposed. As we all know, Gayle, the hardest punch to recover from is that in what you don't see coming. Gervonta Davis has fast hands. He can put you out. He's going to crack Leo Santa Cruz. How is Leo's chin going to hold up? I think this is a very compelling fight, and I think it's one of those underrated matchups that people need to keep their eye on.
Okay.
Agreed with you, Ray. Leo Santa Cruz is a volume performer. I mean, I don't know how he does it. It's absolutely incredible what his training regimen is like. I can't even imagine. And it hasn't diminished as he gets to be an older fighter. It's a really compelling changing of the guard type of fight. I am fascinated by the fact that Regis Prograis is on the undercard. I mean, it blows my head off, honestly, that he was willing to take an undercard fight under Davis and Santa Cruz. I mean, I think that says a lot about him, his seriousness about climbing back up the championship mountain. And I'm very interested in seeing that. Barrios and Carl, first of all, Ginger Nation, come on, everybody. I don't have many of them to root for, So right on, Ryan. But, Barrios took some heat for that last fight. There were a lot of bluebirds in the
Stable Center.
Stable Center. That was a tough fight. So he's got something to prove, and Carl has nothing to lose. I love fights like that. I really do.
I'm not gonna pick a winner now because I'll be biased, because I would probably let my biasness say Carl, just because he is a friend of the show and a friend of mine. I talked to him in inbox. I'm waiting for one of those R Carl Ryan hats, KR hats that he got. I got one off his wife. Twine, what matchup are you looking most forward to? Because the last card we had a time discussing which one of the fights on that last pay-per-view we were most interested in seeing, because that last pay-per-view was well worth the $75. 5 world title fights. Some of them fights were outstanding. Like I was telling people, I was in the Zoom call, and a lot of people in the Zoom call, I think you included, were taking Micah to beat Casimiro, and then Cass went out there and destroyed him. I thought Micah had a chance, but I think is it a little more easier? Which fight are you looking forward to the most, Twine?
It's hard to say between the Larios and Ryan Carl fight or Tank and Santa Cruz. I mean, I like the Ryan Carl Larios fight because it's an all Texas showdown. Like, these two are familiar with each other. This is Ryan Carl's first chance at a title. So, I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to that one, probably more than Tank and Leo, just because, I mean, I'm not sure how I feel about Leo at 130 yet. Like, it just still feels a little bit out of his range for me. I wasn't necessarily impressed with his first fight at 130, where he picked up a world title. What is it, his 4th or 5th title or belt weight class? But I wasn't necessarily that impressed with him at 130. I still think he's better at 126 and has a lot more opportunity there. So I'm not sure how to feel about the main event yet. But I definitely am looking forward to it, just to see, if he puts that pressure style on Tank. And see how Tank adapts, because, other than, Tank being naturally bigger than him, they're still, lengthwise. Leo has that long reach, and they're similar in height and stature. So, I mean, it's definitely going to turn out to be a good fight, regardless of what people are saying. A lot of people have knocked the fight because, like I'm saying, they think Leo's a little bit small for the weight class. But I think it's still going to be better than most people are expecting. But I think Ryan Carl and Larios is going to steal the show in this pay-per-view coming up.
Okay. I'm not going to make my prediction because we'll make that next week. I am going to say I think that the only thing I worry about is Tank, because this last fight, I thought he should have got Gamboa out of there way sooner if he'd have been in better shape. And he cannot afford to not be in good shape versus the guy he's getting ready to fight. Leo is a high volume puncher. He's going to show up in shape and he's going to throw punches all night. Tank cannot be in the same type of shape he was in versus Gamboa, at least in my opinion. And plus, later on we found out Gamboa had, I believe, a ruptured Achilles. So that even the second round. Yeah, that even makes me question even more the performance that we got out of Tank. How he cannot come like that versus Leo. If he does, he's going to get beat. But I'm going to pick make my picks next week with Twine when we do our prediction show. All right, I told you guys we'd be out here in an hour. It's been an hour. This was an amazing show. I was so blessed to have you on here. I know Twine feels the same way. Ray, one more time, you want to tell everybody where they can follow you on social media, and thank you so much for coming on, brother. I hope we can have you on again. I'd like to interview and get some what's your best fight that you've ever announced and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. SBR Flores, social media wise, we hope you guys continue to support the sport in terms of all platforms. And what I'll say is this, is that I think instead of it being like divisive in boxing, like you're a Top Rank fan, you're a PBC fan, you're, a DAZN fan, whatever. Listen, boxing is boxing. I love combat sports no matter when it's on. The more, the better. When football is on, I'm a diehard Chicago Bears fan. I bleed navy and orange, not red, guys. When the NFL comes on, I'm watching my Bears, but I love my full slate of football. Mark my words. I watch NFL football Sunday. I watch college football on Saturday. Even before I go to fights, I got college football in the background as I'm preparing, ready to go to the arena, guys. The more boxing on, the better. Let's support every single platform across the board because we need this sport to flourish, and we can't get it unless we get the fan support and the ratings. So let's be more positive instead of being negative, because I feel like at some times that combat sports is the most negative, especially boxing. We are our own worst enemy. Let's be positive. Let's change the narrative, and let's support these young, hungry champions instead of clapping back with each other on stupid stuff. Let's be positive and continue to support the sport, guys. On my standpoint, November 4th, I'll be calling FS1 on November 4th and then November 14th as well. So very excited to call the fights alongside the legendary Joe Goosen. So greatly appreciate the time, guys.
Awesome. And Gayle, we thank you. I want to send a shout out to Anthony Saldana. He was like, you got to get on the show. I was like, he told me I got to get you on after I'd already asked, and I was like, oh, that's the confirmation. I'm glad that we. So, Gayle, thank you for coming on. Once again, I want to tell everybody where to find you at, where to read your columns at, and I know you're in San Diego and you love straight shelter dogs. So if you want to tell everybody about that.
Lord, well, I'm a big proponent of animal rescue, and I promise you this is a complete coincidence. I have 3 rescued boxer dogs. I'm looking at 2 of them on Snooze now. So rescue, don't buy, rescue, adopt, don't shop. That's right there with all the Bob Barker and Drew Carey advice. So you can find my regular column at Communities Digital News. Google it. And on social, I'm out there in the boxing Twitter cesspool at PR Pro San Diego. And very lucky to be on the show tonight. And Ray, well put. We're going to start sounding like politicians if we keep arguing. Who wants that? Hell no, I've had enough of that. I don't care if it's, a top pay-per-view, like we just saw the Charlo doubleheader. It's fight night from Kazakhstan. A group of us watched 2 Japanese atomweights fight at midnight a week ago. We loved it. I don't care. You know what? Every fighter, no matter the level, trains just as hard for their fight from top to bottom. We need to have respect for every single man and woman that goes in the ring, and I enjoy it. Yeah, from time to time a fight's bad, but you know what? We enjoy a fight when it's good. We enjoy it when it's bad, because if we're watching with friends, that's what it's about.
I agree, and I want to encourage everybody. Tell your friends about this fight tomorrow night. Tell everybody about this fight tomorrow night. Get everybody to watch. I want to see ESPN talking about this is our biggest rated fight since we started running the Top Rank. That's what I really want to see. So with that, we want to thank everybody for coming out. Twine, as always, it's always a pleasure, brother. Talk boxing with you. We'll get together a little bit later and have a discussion. Y'all have a wonderful night, and we're out. Thank you for coming.